Good morning. Are we live?
It says we're live.
It says we're live. Hello, beautiful Monday, everyone. I am going to check and make sure that I'm just going to look up in our group, make sure that we're on. Good morning. Good morning. Beautiful Monday beans, all you beautiful beans. Say beans like they're legumes.
Well, human beings.
Human beings, human beings.
Today,
Today,
Adele.
hello,
Christine.
hello.
Got Christine too.
Oh, Christine, hello, beautiful women. Yeah, today, Serena, actually on our last Thursday call in our working meeting, she brought up a really great question. And so we thought we'd save it for today. And it was about working with clients and how to really, I think, set boundaries and really keep your own energy safe and to not feel drained after working also with people, which I think is something that I've definitely, and I know Heather and I were talking about it earlier, our own experiences with that and how to really be able to hold space well. And so we're going to give,
Well, I was
yeah,
just going to say, especially because I feel like, and this is not true for everyone, but as healers and women who work in the wellness industry, I feel like so many of us are empaths.
yes.
And as empaths, I think that we tend to take on a lot that is not necessarily ours. So that's why I love this topic. I'm really, really glad we're talking about it.
I'm so glad you said that because I think that is so true. And I think because we're feelers and we want to genuinely help. We want to see people, feel better, do better. And when we know we have that ability to support them to do so. Actually, which brings me to a first point because we didn't actually put this on our list of what we were gonna give. So I'm gonna actually bring this up right now. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in holding space for clients is that you're there to support them, not help them. And what is the difference between the energy of trying to help them versus support them? So the difference between doing the work for them versus like, you know, giving them the tools so that they can help themselves. And that was like mind blowing to me when I first heard that. So just in the words that you're even using, I think is very powerful. Words really do create energy, create action. So yeah, let's go through our list, and Heather, of course, interrupt me if you have anything to say.
I
I
will.
love when you interrupt me.
Great. I'm so glad that happens a lot.
I love it. Yeah, so the first thing that I really found to be quite helpful is to start your morning with intention and to be very grounded in your own energy. All of the tips that we're going to share here today are about being very grounded in yourself and to call in the tools that you have, that you've learned, and the wisdom you hold. So that can be so different for everybody. I know that it could be meditation, it could be journaling for an hour, doing morning pages, it could be a coloring book, it could be sitting in silence and staring at the wall. That is a form of meditation. That's actually what I like to do, is like sometimes I just like to sit and look.
Me
And
too.
and then there's also affirmations, like what are you affirming for the day? It could also be visualization, which, could be part of your meditation or it could be, something different. Visualizing, Heather and I know both have this, and Heather's going to, I think, talk more about this, about really planting your feet firmly on the ground and how your roots grow to the center of the core of the earth so that you're always grounded. I love that visualization. I know that I think all of us are plant people in this group, so that I find is a very powerful visualization. The other piece that I think doesn't really get talked about a lot, but I'm a fan of, is to eat high vibrational foods. And that isn't necessarily something that usually goes with like, oh, how to hold space for clients, eat well, but it really does, because I think we can all say here with pretty certainty that eating McDonald's, we don't generally feel, or whatever that food may be that you associate with, like, yeah, it's not really the greatest. You don't feel really like strong and centered in yourself. I don't really know anybody that said, yeah, I'm eating McDonald's and I feel really strong and like, woo, and like that, right? So whatever that looks like for you, of eating high vibrational foods can really shift your own energetic frequency. And I think that is such a big piece.
I would say, I think also being aware of like what you personally do well with food wise,
Yeah.
because I know that for myself personally, when I have a really busy day, then I just know automatically it's going to be like juice all day. It's
Yeah.
like just fluids, and because the minute that I eat something a little bit heavier, then I'm just like brain fog and can't like concentrate. That doesn't mean I don't choose to eat, you know, that way at other times, but for sure when I have a busy schedule, then I just know this is how I need to show up today for myself and my body.
That is so true. And it's so important. And I think that like you said, brain fog, when we eat foods that are, you know, that lower frequency or even some that are even heavier that you would still say, well, this is still good, but it is heavier, just knowing that like difference, because it can kind of feel like you have a mask on and you're not fully present. And I feel like that presence and that grounding is so needed. So remembering that, and I think that it's so important. And also because our energy is so much higher. Like we can have a very busy day and still be able to hold space versus like I think about that before I even pick up any food. It's like, what do I have to do for the day? Is this going to help or hinder? Also another way to look at it. And this is now we're going to get into before each client, which this is really a juicy topic, and there's so many different layers of the artichoke within this. And so there's one thing I'm going to bring up, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, Heather, because I love everything that we talked about earlier. Is that last year I was going through a difficult period, and I had like a lot of anger and sadness and just all these different feels that were going on. And I was working with a really wonderful coach, and I said, what tools, what suggestions do you have for me before a client if I'm having some emotional like uproar within myself? Like how can I really you know, work through that so I can be present for a client? And she taught me this really wonderful thing. And it was like, before a client, however much time you need, to be able to like shake it off and do like anger work or grief work in some way. So sometimes I would just like shake in my office and just like, ugh, and like do some breath work. Maybe that's punching a pillow for you. Maybe that's something else. But I think that is to know not to stuff things down, but to be able to work them out, even if it's in small increments, knowing that you can still do that. So that also goes along with knowing how much time you need in your schedule before each client. I'm going to hand it off to you, Heather, with it.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is actually a topic that I am really passionate about because it's something that I had to learn for myself. And so I would love to share that with you. And that is that there is sort of like this basic wisdom of making sure that you schedule at least 15 minutes in like in between calls so that you do have that moment to scream or punch pillows or even like go to the bathroom and grab yourself some tea, whatever it is. Like there's just like plain wisdom in that. However, I think that it's so good to know what you personally need, because this was something that I had to learn, is that for myself personally, I need at least an hour. And not only that, but I need to know or I need to like limit the number of clients that I have during the day, because I do take on so much and I give so much in my client calls that I just know that I need that time to bring myself back so that I can give again. And
Yeah.
so that's something that, and I feel like this is so personal. I think that some women are able to go like 6 hours solid on calls and then maybe not have calls the rest of the week or whatever it looks like for you. But that is something that I just really want to encourage, is to think about like for yourself what you need between your calls in order to show up well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something. And then the other thing that I like to do before my calls is, and again, this is like something just like super personal. This is like something I do and maybe something else would work for you. But in order to kind of get myself into like the energy of my clients and to sort of tap in, I actually have music that I have picked for each of my clients, depending on either conversations that we've had or sort of like the vibe that I get from them. Just because I love music so much and it's just such a part of my life. And it's almost at this point a Pavlovian response, because when I hear that music, then I think of that client and then I kind of am like tapped into that energy with them. So anyway, I love doing that. And it's also something that like when I'm working on things for them, then I'll also be listening to that music. And so again, that's just something that I do to sort of bring that energy in and to put myself in that space.
I love that. I think that is so brilliant because, like, that too, right? Like, as a client, when you know that somebody is so present and thinks of you and really prepares for you and has that energy that they're carrying with you, like, and it's so beautiful to have a song like that makes me go like, oh, like I hope everybody I work with like has a song for me. Like that's so beautiful. I love it. I
Yeah,
I
that's
love that.
which actually Sherry had said that clients can feel if you are not fully present. And I 100% agree with that. Yeah, because I've been on calls with when I have been the client and I have felt that energy as well. And that doesn't feel good for anyone. So
Yeah. That you can always tell when somebody is like a little distant or they have something else going on in the background and then they're not fully present for you. It's not a good feeling, especially when you're paying for a service. And that's like an energetic exchange, which we could totally get into that some other time. Yeah. And there for me, like I really noticed that there's to go off of what you said, Heather, like for me it's like 15 minutes before, like I do not like to schedule back to back. Like I like to have a generous amount of time. That's something I know for myself, to go to the bathroom, get a cup of tea, and then to be able to like write down any notes that I have a client write, to like also close the energy before I go into another client. And so like having whatever kind of closure you need before moving on to the next project. There have been times like I'm like, whoo, like this is going to be a little bit of a tighter schedule. And I think that goes with the presence of like how you're preparing for your entire day. For me, that like I do know that I like to prepare 15 minutes before a client, think of them, and also think of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, what is the importance of the work that I'm doing? And so being very, very clear of like, I am here to support whoever that may be, and hold space for them. And like I love doing this work. Here's what I'm here to make a stand for. Like for Heather and I, for instance, like we're here to make a stand for the world to be a better place by supporting women to be able to make buttloads of money. That way they can also go out and do their work and share it so greatly. And like I just think of like little fireflies lighting up entire around the entire world. And that's how I think of clients, is like these little lights that are lighting up everywhere, and pretty soon we just have this beautiful ball of glowing. And so like those visualizations really help me to like hold that spirit, that energy of like that vibrant place that I'm holding for this client, even no matter what they're going through. If somebody's coming with like more emotional stuff that they're going through, for instance, that I can still be in that space of like, yeah, like I'm grounded, I am holding this, I'm holding space for that vision with them. And I would also say too, oh, do you have something to say?
no, I was just say, speaking of that grounding, did you want to talk some more about like the way
Yeah, tell me of your, you tell me first.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Crystal had already mentioned this, but there are two ways that for me personally, I like show up for my clients. And the work that I do is less on the emotional side of healing. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't come in. And also I am still an empath, and I feel a lot of what my clients are feeling, whether it is the stress, the anxiety, sometimes sadness over how things are going, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so there are two tools that I have used. Both of them I've learned from mentors of mine that I absolutely love. And one of them is what Crystal had mentioned earlier, where instead of, because this is something that I used to do, is I used to just feed on my own energy. So I would use whatever it was of my own energy to give, and it was exhausting. I couldn't keep it up, and I was so drained that I couldn't show up at all for anybody the rest of the day. Like I would have one client and then I knew I was done because I just couldn't handle anything else. And so one thing that I learned to do was to ground into the earth, to ground into Gaia, and to allow sort of like my own roots to go into the earth, and then to draw energy from her, because she gives and she has it to give, and we're able to sort of take that on. And so I just kind of like pull that up into me, and then I'm able to just like sort of give from there. So that's a place, that's like an area that I've been able to use to kind of, it also grounds me so that I feel like I'm not going to be blown away by whatever it is that is coming up. And then the other thing, speaking of being blown away, is I think that there is a time and place for shielding yourself from others' energies. And I think that Crystal knows a little bit more about that and may touch on it a little bit. And we also, this is like a whole other thing. But I think that there's also a space for sort of allowing it to just move through you. And this is something else that I learned from a mentor of mine, and she always called it skeletoning. So it was like you kind of visualize yourself as a skeleton, where you allow whatever that energy is to just move right through you, because it's not yours. It's not yours to hold. Again, as Crystal said, we're there to support. We're not there to hold everybody else's energy and feelings and all of that. And so allowing the feelings to come, because we also don't want to stop people's processes and people's energy. So allowing that to just kind of move through you is another thing that that I have learned how to do. So I think that those are my personal 2 tips for at least that actual energy piece of it, is grounding into the earth and then allowing it to sort of hit you, but keep going.
Yeah. And to add to that, I love the skeleton piece. I just love that one. Is that it's not your responsibility to fix your client's problems, issues, or concerns. So I think that is different. You know, whatever that might be that you might do, it is not your responsibility to take that on, right? So like, let's say for instance that you're a graphic designer and somebody's coming and saying like, hey, I want to do some graphics. Yes, you have the responsibility to deliver, right, what they're giving you, of like said product, said program, whatever that might be. But there's a difference in taking on the responsibility of them, for instance, in work, to do their work for them, right? Like, and I've felt this when I've hired a couple coaches. I'm like, like I need you to hold space for me to do the work, to bring it out of me, not for you to be like, oh, I gotta help them, they're not doing well, or they're not this. Like, let me see everything I can do, but rather hold space and to work, you know, help your client work through it. And I think that is, or to support your client to work through it. And so I think that that's a different energy. So remember that it's not your responsibility to fix. And so you're there to hold space, to listen, to be a mentor, a guide, a teacher. And that's really, I think, definitely helped me in like knowing where, you know, where that responsibility lies. Like, what does that look like in the relationship, and being very, very clear on your role. And to me, that is a big piece of this. Is also, there's like that mental piece of like knowing what your responsibility is in a relationship. And so being very clear on your boundaries and being very clear with that with your clients. So I love clear boundaries. I think speaking needs, you know, having great communication. I mean, that's like a whole different thing in itself that we could talk about. So being very clear in boundaries is so important. Another thing that I wanted to get into is that I think this is something I learned from a beautiful, amazing mentor of mine who's a shamanic practitioner. And so this is going to look different for everybody. And I say this because I know we have so many beautiful, witchy, magical, empathic light workers, shadow workers in this, is that to call in your guides or your support system prior to working with clients. Now, this can mean many different things for everybody. And this is really based on wisdom that you've received from, you know, different lineages that have been handed down to you, right? Not about appropriating what you've heard other people do, but really tapping into the wisdom. This could be, you know, praying to God. You might have goddesses that you call upon. This could be archangels. It could be your spirit guides. It could be so many different things. And so for me, what my mentor told me is that when you call upon your guides, however that might be, to help you do the work, that they're helping you do the work and you shouldn't really be drained at the end of the day. And I was like, what? Mind blown, you know, especially as an empath, but it's like, but I'm doing all this work. Like, how could that be? But I really loved that, how she handed that to me, like over as her wisdom. And that's something that we're not going to be teaching today, because I think there's a different place and time for that. But to call upon your support systems to help you do the work. And that is made a big difference to me, is like when I prep for a call, especially for my coaching calls, when I, whether it be business or whether for be health, that to help me like be rooted firmly within to the ground, and also to help support me, to bring the universal wisdom, to be present for the client, to have words and move through me that would support a client, the questions that would support them. And that to me is like, that's like that extra of like, oh, juiciness that really helps, where I've learned that part of like knowing where my responsibility and role is, and also calling upon whatever support I can to also be working through me. Because I think that I truly believe that it's universal knowledge, that and wisdom that we can tap into at any time, and that's what can support us, and also being better at our job, whether it be a coach, whether it be a naturopath, an herbalist. You could call upon plants, like plant medicine, help me, like I know some of you have a few plants that you really work with, and they can also be your guide. And so there's different ways of doing it.
100%.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I love it. It's so juicy. That way when you show up, you're showing up with like
the whole army.
a whole like love army to support your client, whatever that might be. You could be building a website for them, and there's like a whole army, like, yeah, like just juiciness throughout that. And that energy is so different when you receive from somebody at being a client, like knowing that your coach or your web designer or whoever that might be came with all of that for you. It's so beautiful to know that, because you can feel that. You're like, oh, that's like, I know when I had this beautiful coach last year, and I could feel her and her power when she opened up the door when I was with her on retreats, and I could feel it before a call, that she had prepared herself for me. Like she had prepared herself for me. That is a whole different energy to come from. And then like knowing that she took that time and also was very clear in her boundaries and her responsibilities with me, that all just made for a really great experience. And I don't know, I can't speak for her on the other end, but I feel really good when I do that for clients too, that I'm like, oh, that was a great call. Okay, how can I put some closure to it? Which leads us also to closure. How you close the energy of your calls or your in-person meetings, I think is also very important, so that you're not continuing to carry that. Yes, like I think there is, for me, I would be curious if you have anything to say about this, Heather, but like when you're working with someone and you have a container, you're really holding that container for however long that is that you're working together. And so like if I have a 6-month program that I'm working with somebody, like I'm holding space during that entire 6 months, but I also know that I need to have some closure at the end of a call, to like be like, write my notes, do something else, so that I can continue on and move on to other things. Otherwise it's going to kind of like run through my mind all the time, and I'm like, oh,
Yep.
what did this, like this, and it can kind of get like you can kind of have messy energy is what I would call it, where it's kind of like scattered and all over the place, and you're bringing that onto another call. So I'd say closure is also very important, so that you can show up for all the rest of your clients in clear energy.
Yeah, that's actually really, really important for me. Because my brain does tend to continue to kind of percolate on things that came up, and I'll continue to have ideas and want to like sit with them. And also I don't always have time to do that, because I do have other clients that I need to show up for. For me personally, and this is just super practical, like what I do is throughout my calls, then I do take notes. For me, my system is I have Post-it notes all over my desk. This is just kind of how I work. And so I just write like tons and tons of Post-it notes. And then when my meetings are over, then I move all of them to-do lists on my computer, and it allows me to kind of just dump it and get it out. And then I rip up my Post-it notes, which actually always feels really good to just take it and rip it up, because it feels complete to me, even though it's not complete, because the work has not yet been done. However, it is on my computer. My brain has kind of, allowed it to let go. And then I energetically rip up the Post-it note so that I don't have to look at it anymore. And then that allows me to kind of move forward. So
I love that. That's so good. And as I was listening to you, Heather, one, I just love you. And not just, but I love you. And so for those that are watching that do not know, Heather and I have both worked with each other. And so like I love Like I know Heather and I know how she shows up to a call, and it's so precious and I love it. And it's just like I just want everyone to have the joy of like working with you, Heather. I just want them to have that because it's so good. It's so good. So now that I know that you rip all those things up like that, like that feels also good to me. So I
Okay.
love hearing the back end. I didn't know you did that.
That's so funny. I thought you knew I did that. Yeah.
No. I'm discovering new things every day. I love it. Oh, beautiful. And I wanted to say hi because I saw Sherry also saw Qigong is great for drawing in the energy we need and also releasing it back out so we don't hold on to it. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
good.
beautiful. I love that. Thank you for that tip, Sherry. And
Mhm.
Christine said yes. Oh, and I saw Reshma joined. Hello, Reshma, if you're still watching. It's so beautiful to see all of you this morning. Yeah, so drop your tips. What do you have for how to not feel drained at the end of a client call? How do you hold space in a way that feels like, I think of it as recirculating energy and like to be in, oh, there is a word for it, but I'm totally forgetting it right now. But what tips have helped you to be able to hold space and to be able to keep your energy through different calls? What do you do? How do you schedule? Like, share with us those tips. I'd love to hear what all you women have to say. I'm very curious what's really worked for you. Because I know we have so much wisdom in this group, because we do have different, I think that there's in all our self-care processes, our spiritual processes. I think this is really where spirituality really, like, it feels so juicy in business, is like that piece. That's why I like working with people that are what some would call more woo. That's why I'm also excited for Lisa to come. And so we just posted last night, in case you didn't see it. Lisa, we're having our interview. This totally segued into a different thing.
Oh, great job.
Lisa Fraley, we're doing our interview with Lisa Fraley, who's a legal coach, she's so awesome because she's like, has this like beautiful energy about her, and how she, she's an attorney, of how she does legal work and how she specifically helps those that are coaches or those that are, in the healing community be able to get their butts legally covered, basically.
She's a holistic lawyer.
Yeah, she's a holistic lawyer. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. That's so cool. And the way she does that, and that like different energy, like, it feels so warm and nourishing rather than like cold and patriarchal and scary.
Yeah. Warm and nourishing is such a good way to describe her. Yeah, she honestly, like, from the interactions we've had with her, she's just like a little ray of sunshine. She's just so warm and just wonderful. Yeah,
she's awesome. You're all gonna love her. Definitely come to the interview, and it will be, if you don't have to be there live for the interview. It's 15 minutes. We're going to be asking her some questions so you can learn more about her, what she does, and her outlook on legalities in business, which is going to be really cool. And then she's also our featured guest expert in the Business Coven. And so that's when we're actually going to get into really the juiciness of the Q&A and get all our questions answered about S corporations, LLC, trademarks, different things for our members that are in the Business Coven.
Disclaimers.
If you're not yet, get up, get your booty in there. It's amazing. It's fun. We're just getting
so much fun.
Yeah, and we're just getting started, and it's been so juicy to hear, and we're in so much creation right now. Heather and I are about making courses and different cool stuff to help out all the members in there. But yeah, Lisa's going to be joining us and doing some really spending some time actually answering, some of those deeper questions, which is awesome, because I think this is something, especially those of you that are either just getting started or you're not quite sure if you like have done what you need to do, in terms of terms and conditions or privacy policy disclaimers, like, working with clients. Do I have my contracts in place? Like, what do I actually have to do versus what is like unnecessary work? And like, she's so great at that. And I just love, like I said, she's a holistic lawyer. She's awesome.
She's great. Yeah, so that is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific. And again, we're just going to be live in the Facebook group. And so if you'd like to join us live, that'd be fantastic. And otherwise, you can watch the replay. So that'll just be our fun little pre-interview with her, so that you all have an opportunity to get to feel some of her energy and what she brings and does. And as a reminder, then the business coven is 50% off until July 5th at midnight. This is a special one-time offer for all of our founding members. It will never happen again. So get in there, join us so that you can also have the opportunity to go to Lisa's Q&A and then to also be a part of everything else that we have going on, because it is good stuff.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff. And we have some cool copywriters, Facebook ads experts, marketing experts, like all sorts of Pinterest podcasts. Like we have a lot of stuff coming up into the coven to really learn from like experts and really be able to get grounded in specific strategy and also network, you know. And I think Heather and I have talked about that, like the importance of networking in what I would say is the woman's way. It's not like, what do you do for a living? Here's my card. Like, oh, like that's so boring. It's like, connecting. And this is something we've said over and over, the relationships that you create in business, like the sisterhood, those are your future clients, collaborators, affiliates. I used to think that like clients were this like I market this, somebody pays me, and then we work, and then that's it. But really, like it's more about like relationships and building those, and it becomes so it's easy. That's where I think also marketing becomes easy. And also too, right, collaborations and like seeing other people in your field and complementing one another is so important. And it's done with such fluidity. And so that's really what like Heather and I are really aiming to build, is a really beautiful network of women that are here to be in integrity with business, to grow together, to discover new tools together, to make it easy to have a wealthy, lucrative business that's, you know, in alignment with your values and how you want to move through the world. And so I think like your support system is so important to that. I'm in masterminds and different groups, and I think it's absolutely needed more than like a website like that to do that.
Yeah, the feedback is just invaluable. It's valuable. It's so valuable. Yes, the feedback is so valuable. And to circle back for just a second, Christine did share that she starts and ends the day in the garden because the plants call to her. Thank you so much for sharing that, Christine. That's beautiful. And again, from that community aspect, please do share the things that you do, the ways that you show up for your clients and yourself throughout the day, the ways that you hold space, because I think that everyone's ways are so unique. And I love it. And I think that we can all learn from each other. And that's definitely what we're here to do. And that's why Crystal and I created this group. So please share. I'd love to hear it. I would love to learn from you too. So
Yeah. I love that, Christine. Oh, my little plant heart just got so excited for that when you said that. The plants call to me. They do, because they always know. They always know. They neutralize energy too, which I feel is very cool. You can just give it back to the earth and let Gaia do her thing. Oh, I love it. I love this discussion. Is there anything else you want to end with, Heather, before we close?
I feel complete.
I feel complete as well. Oh, Christine, the smiley face. It was so beautiful to be on with all of you. Reminder, like we said, interview with Lisa Fraley tomorrow. We'll put the link we'll put it in the thing to join the business coven. Like we said, it's only till the 5th that it's 50% off. And as well, we have Thursday meetings, working Thursday meetings.
Yep, Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific. Yes. So hopefully we will see you there tomorrow morning and then again on Thursday.
Yeah. Blessings, beautiful beans,
Yes.
Beautiful legumes.
Beautiful legumes. Have a wonderful week.
Blessings, everyone.
Blessings.